This flagship program is unique to Long Island and provides farmer-to-farmer mentorship, on-farm education, technical support, application support, and funding to help farmers become certified organic. And this includes farmers who are becoming certified for the first time, as well as farmers who are currently certified but wish to add additional acres or scope to their certification. Ryan is an example of a previously certified farmer who added acres to his certification last year under the program, and Patty is an example of a farmer who is transitioning to organic certification for the first time. Unfortunately, Jonathan Scarrow from Young Farm is able to join us today. So now I'm going to pass it on to Ryan, who can take it from here and provide us with a kickoff introduction of the farm.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Whitney. I'll just click and share my screen here. Can everybody see the slideshow?
Yes, you can see that. Thank you.
All right. And I think I see Lisa as a friend and coworker in there. So I hope you're doing well, Lisa. I'm the manager of Jamesport Farmstead. We raise diversified fruits and vegetables, and we have a flock of laying hens. The farm is a no-till farm, and that means our vegetable production area is on the smaller side. We've got a little under 2 acres in production. We have roughly a half of an acre in a kind of an orchard, a diversified orchard that we hope to be growing through the coming seasons. Our biggest chunk of land in production is a 2.5 acre blueberry field, and we'll see an overhead shot of that. It's a little daunting but exciting. And then we have an acre in blackberry canes and strawberries, and about 1/4 of an acre with 3 greenhouses. We've got 3 high tunnels. They're 70 feet by 32 feet. And anyway,
Ryan, could you do us a favor? And I think we're on to a new slide, but right now all we see is the intro slide that says diversified fruits and vegetables with laying hens.
Oh yeah, I hadn't advanced yet.
Okay, cool.
Can everyone see this big old field here? I hope.
Yeah.
Anyway. So this is our blueberry field. You can see we flagged out our first row of blueberries. As back in 2020 rather. We started planting our perennial fruits in this field. Here's a shot of our vegetable field sometime in the summer of 2020. This is a 2 acre vegetable field. And all of our annual production is essentially more or less done in this field, save a few other spots. Here's an overhead shot of the farm prior to my joining. The 2 owners, their names are Kim Frank and Jeff Brown. I met them in the summer of 2019, and they hired me to work with them and manage the farm, and I started in September of 2019. So here's a shot before things really got going. There's a couple of beds of things that are there, but we've changed a few things around. And lastly on the slideshow is, I think this is from late spring of this year. So it's more or less where we're at now. I'm unsure if you can see my mouse, but where I'm tracking now is a 3rd greenhouse. Here is our blueberry field. It's located kind of between these access roads. Our annual vegetable field is along the eastern boundary here on the north side. And tracking south, we have our barn. There's a wash and pack station there. Continuing south, there's the 3 greenhouses. And lastly is our blackberries and strawberries. North of this shot, I'm not quite sure if you can see it, I can't see it, is a little piece of our orchard. anyway, we're located in Jamesport, New York. It's very seasonal. This time of year, it's pretty quiet, but we get a very bustling crowd in the summertime, and we're planning and excited to start our third year in production this season. Thanks for popping in.
Thank you, Ryan. That was a wonderful overview of your farm. I really enjoyed the perspective of both the aerial and the on-the-ground view.
All right.
And so now we'll hand it over to Patty, and I will be sharing a slideshow of Patty's.
Thank you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yes, hi, thank you, Whitney, and hello, everyone. My name is Patty Gentry. I run a farm called Early Girl Farm in Brookhaven on Long Island, and we're a little under 2 acres, and we grow highly diversified vegetables mostly, and well, actually all vegetables, unless I sometimes think of like fruiting plants as fruits, like zucchini, tomato, and all that, but it's just very intensely planted, a little bit less than 2 acres. And this will be my 6th full season on the farm. Before I started leasing this land, it was an abandoned lot. It was a training barracks for the Army in the 1920s, and there was a forest basically growing up through the foundations of the buildings that were there. My landlady it's a 28-acre parcel, but we lease 3 acres from her, more or less. An acre of that is just like the roads going through and our storage areas and things like that. So when we got the property, my landlady had to clear our current planting space, and which was a very traumatic experience for the soil. It was the old growth trees she saved, and a lot of the like young oaks and all the vines and weeds were all taken out. The other young trees taken out, and their roots pulled from the soil. So when we started farming here, it was like less than 1% organic matter, and missing all the major nutrients. So now that we're heading into our 6th growing season, things have really improved. We've been able to build the organic matter through cover cropping and composting, and we've been able to fill the mineral deficits through testing and adding various types of rock minerals and seaweed and crab and lobster shell and all of those types of things. We bake compost teas and do foliar sprays, and we soak our seedlings in compost tea. So through all these little practices have added up to this year was our most productive year, and the soil has finally come back to life. So what you see here is our greenhouse. That's the biggest one that we have. It's a 30 by 96. And I don't know if you want to switch that slide. What do I do to get it to go down? Hey, Whitney, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Patty.
Okay, great.
I just transitioned the slide. Can you see it?
Thank you. Yep, I see it. This is where we have our fields broken up into 3 sections, and they're each a little less than 3/4 of an acre. This is our longest field. All the beds are 30 inches wide with 18-inch walking paths, and this is a 200-foot long field. And then the next picture to the right is our shortest field, where we put in overhead irrigation, and we do mostly greens and radishes and kind of like quick growing crops in this field. And this is all the beds again are 30 inches and they're 75 feet long in this field. And you want to go to the last slide. Thank you. This is our little production house. It's a cold frame that we turned into our production room, where we have two 100-gallon tanks where we wash lettuces, an electric salad spinner, and this just kind of like shows the harvest sometime in early summer. So it's been really thrilling to watch how the same 2 acres, just by composting, and I know Ryan is already practicing no-till, but that's something that we started to practice this past year. We started to use silage tarps to cover the crops that are growing, cover crops and residuals from the year before. And so we're also transitioning into no-till, which we've really seen the benefit of in the health and productivity of the plants. So, and we started the farm, we serve restaurants primarily, and now we have a CSA. We started with 30 people 3 seasons ago, and this past season we were up to 130 people, and this year we'll go to 150. And in addition to that, we serve, I would say, about 8 restaurants, some in Brooklyn and some out here on Long Island. And so that's basically our little farm.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Patty. So one part of Patty's journey towards organic transition has been to build up the health of her soils, and she's also kept great records, which has been helpful to her in application process, and she's been kind enough to share some of that with us. So I'm going to stop sharing the photos. And which of the 2 documents you sent me would you like me to share first, the map or the amendment list?
I think the soil test. Okay.
Everyone see that?
So this is our most recent soil test, and we use Logan Labs. They're located in Ohio, and we do a standard soil test. That's what you're seeing here. And we also asked for them to test for like trace minerals like boron and molybdenum, selenium, cobalt, in addition to the big heavy hitting nutrients like calcium, magnesium, potassium. They also help us keep on top of our organic matter percentages, which are, I think, a little bit up more towards the top here. And we've gone from, as I said, less than 1% organic matter to, as you can see here, like these are the greenhouses, the first 2, and that 10% organic matter, that's like an 18 by 50. So it was easy to build the organic matter in there. But these are our fields, A, B, and C. And so little by little, we've gone from 1% to, the lowest is, 4.5% organic matter. So I learned how to do this through the Bionutrient Food Association, which is run by Dan Kitteridge. And I took his class, and he taught all the students there how to test soil and how to read the results and empower you to do the math and know exactly how much of each amendment you need to put into the soil to help the plants get what they need. So that's the soil test. That's what it looks like. And then the next slide is the math that I did. And I think Whitney's going to show you that.
Just 1 second while I pull that up.
Sure. Before I learned how to do this, I had a man who helped me. He was amazing, but I would ask him like, well, what do you think I need? He would test the soil for me, and he would, give me recommendations on what he thought I needed. And that was very helpful. But learning how to read the soil test myself was really empowering, because now I can have a conversation with the people that I purchase these things from and, ask them, like, what do they think? Like, should I use gypsum or lime, for example? Or, what kind, like, for example, boron is a really important player in the minerals. And there's two different types. There's one that has 20% available boron. That's more like a powder. It's called Solubor. You could turn it into a liquid. It's more readily available, but it's difficult to spread. And then there's a boron that has like 10% available boron. That's a granular. That's easier to spread, but less available boron. So you can see here, like, these are the target levels that we're going for the major nutrients. Sulfur, I learned, is a very important nutrient. That was something I didn't know when I first started farming, and it's always missing and pretty easy to amend, which is great. And then these are the targets of the micronutrients. So I won't go into it now, but of course, if anybody ever wanted to ask me about the process, you could email me and I'll share all of the information with you that has helped me so much. So as you can see through that soil test, I know that I need, like, only for a 3/4 of an acre field, I need 91.5 pounds of sulfur, which is 2 bags, and so it's wonderful because you know exactly what you need. And you could even go further. And so I've broken it up into how many square feet are in a bed, so I can do the math to figure out if I'm going to amend just 6 beds, I'll know how many pounds of each of these things I have to mix and spread out to get the plants what they're missing. And it helps. It's like a piece of a puzzle that I think has been very helpful to me. And it's been wonderful keeping these records, because now that I'm transitioning into organic certification, I have these things on hand and I can show a history of how we've amended our fields, which I think will be helpful. So.
Thank you, Patty. That was a fantastic overview and a great highlight of some important considerations for soil testing. You're a good farmer.
Thank you.
So now I would like to invite Ryan to come back on screen and we will begin our panel questions. So I would like to ask both of you, and perhaps Ryan, you can jump in with your answers first. What inspired you to become certified organic?
Sure. The reason I began farming to begin with was I was taking more interest in the food and the different materials I exposed myself to, just sort of just for myself, just to better how I was living my life. And that led to finding, through a friend, a farm that I learned to grow food on pretty much from zero. And the growing practices I learned there are largely the growing practices I practice now. I started in 2014, so I guess for a few years now, and I think it's just the nature of, like, bettering the soil to grow healthy food. It just kind of goes hand in hand with seeking out organic certification, and it's like a wonderful designation to attain if you're able to, and we value that a lot. So we plan on continuing that.
And the same question to you, Patty.
Similarly to Ryan, I learned everything from, I leased an acre of land at a place called Eco Farm in East Hampton. They leased, um, acre plots to people that wanted to become entrepreneurial farmers. And so ECO stands for East End Community Organic Garden. And I worked with a man who was my mentor. His name is Dale Halbrick. He is now in his mid 70s, but he was raised in Iowa and he studied biology. And he was always on the track of organic because to him, that's the only thing that really
Gentry. I've seen it before.
Never saw it?
made sense. But anyway, so I, it never occurred to me really to do anything but organic. And similarly to Ryan, when you're a small farm, you're very hands-on. You're like, you do hand cultivating and you spread amendments by hand and and everything I put on the field really ends up in my mouth and in my hair. So I just, and so just instinctually, and also because I was at a place that was only practicing organic farming, that's kind of what started it for me. And then I learned about the benefits of building soil and how farming organically, if you can do it, it's like I compare it to like a checking account versus a savings account. Like when you need an immediate fix, you withdraw money from your checking account. But like I feel like organic farming is like a savings account. You build soil and that soil's there for you in the future. So that's what got me into it.
Wonderful. So maybe the two of you can tell me what your greatest challenges have been throughout your transition to organic. And I understand maybe in some instances the answer is you sort of started out that way, but I feel like there's always a learning curve for every farmer, learning the National Organic Program regulation and so on. Ryan, can you lead us off?
Sure, absolutely. I think a challenge for myself was, and it was mentioned earlier, is keeping good records. That's an exercise that I've had to strengthen, and as it should be, to qualify to become certified organic, you need to really have a clear understanding of what you're spreading in your fields, what materials you're purchasing, how you're handling the crops you're growing, and probably the challenge for me that really most not affected me, but I had to learn to handle was how my neighbors were growing their food. For instance, on our southern edge of our property, there's a vineyard. On the eastern boundary, there's a horse farm, and not too far across the road, kind of southeast from us, is a conventional farm. And on our first year, we grew some sweet corn, and understanding the proximity to a conventional farm and pollination, and that's just one example of how keeping records of where our corn was in proximity to their corn, and their spray records of what they're using on their fields, and it possibly interfering with what we're doing, and having a physical barrier between those different businesses around us. That was a bit of a challenge to learn to deal with. And then another aspect of a challenge that I can think of is we have been organic certified as far as we've been in production, but we're increasing our scale. And so we've added acreage on to our certified fields, and that includes tracking back in time and knowing what the history of that area. If someone had been managing your property before you, how do you show what practices were going on there and what materials were being spread, etc. And I guess that's kind of the broad vision of challenges that I've encountered.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, especially the note about neighboring conventional cornfields. Corn is definitely a difficult one because of the GMO aspect in conventional corn farming. And Patty, how about you? Has there been any challenges that you've had to face?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the winter is so short, like there's a lot of planning to do. And I always run out of time. Like I've been wanting to do organic certification for the longest time because I would love to just have a relationship with a third party to kind of like discuss and bounce ideas off of. And, you know, like the short time that I've been really involved since I met you, Whitney, has just been wonderful because I feel like you're a wealth of knowledge, NOFA New York. And it's just, I feel so very supported and encouraged to get the organic certification. But I feel like by the time I'm done, every year it's the same: ordering seeds, getting our CSA announcement together, making a planting chart for the fields, and then we start seeding again in heavily in March, and then I like run out of time. So I feel like just taking the time to begin has been the biggest challenge for me. And you know, my mom has been on me about like, why don't you get certified? Why don't you get certified? I'm like, this is the year. And it hasn't happened until thankfully I met you, and you have like put it in front of my face, which has made it a lot easier for me to begin the process. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Patty, for the kind words, and I'm glad that we can support you, and I'm glad that we can be of help. And I also agree the winter is too short. I have heard from some of our seasoned farmers that the application process does get shorter and easier after you get through the first year. So we'll get there. So the next question I'd like to ask the two of you, and again, I'll put it to Ryan first, is there anything you've had to change about your operation in order to become certified or certify those additional acres in the United States?
The short answer is no, but I could just take 10 seconds to emphasize that knowing if you're leasing or buying land is just really having a good sense of how that land was managed. I dare say most farmland is, by square footage is conventional. So I don't mean that to be scary to hear, but just having a good sense of what was going on there beforehand and having a plan. The person I learned to farm from purchased land that he didn't even he didn't mean to become certified organic in his first year, and he had his practices in motion, and he was practicing organic practices and planned on becoming certified after his third year of growing, because I think of certain reasons he just couldn't gain the history of the land prior to his owning it.
That's a great point, and also a consideration if you're a farmer who's looking for a new location, to look into that history before signing a lease. And Patty, what about you? Is there anything that you, if at all, had to change in order to achieve certification?
No, but I have to say that the more I learn about soil health, like the more I feel that even the organically approved pesticides don't really work. And so, I think there was a time where I was like, oh my God, there's bean leaf beetles on the beans, on the string beans, and I would get pyganic and kill them. And I didn't really I thought, well, it's organically approved, and I'm only using it when they're heavily infested. But I feel like I don't even want to do that anymore. It's like you need to do these things sometimes, but I feel that heading towards this organic certification, and also like just really kind of doubling down on building soil health, I feel like even my awareness of the things that are organic approved for control of, you know, fungus and bacterial infections and pests are things that I would even, you know, like to not use, you know, farming. So, you know, and so I guess like that's the thing that I would like to change, is by getting better at building soil, and even like knowing how to water plants properly. And like that's a huge part of it, just everything, mulching better, that I would be never use that stuff again, even though it's organically improved. So that's something that I'd like to change. I like to take Pyganic and New Cop out of my little fertilizer and area for good. So that's something that I would like to change.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. The idea of other methods like timing of planting or diversification, things like that, to sort of hedge what you grow in terms of defending against pest pressure. So the next question I have for Ryan is, how has organic certification benefited your farm business so far?
Sure. I could, I guess, break that down into two areas, like ecologically and economically. Ecologically, I think it inherently just causes your land to become more ecologically diverse, and I mean that on like a microscopic scale. Our soil has gained organic matter, I think 1.5% each year for the last 2 years. Our vegetable fields, I believe 2.5 years ago, was something like 3.5% organic matter, and this past year, part of the vegetable field registered at like 7.5%. So really, just the nature of the growing practices has grown our soil to become richer and not necessarily more nutrient dense. We actually don't add all that much. We don't bring in too much additional nutrients. We just add a lot of carbon to the soil. And the result of that is a high biomass is actually the designation on our soil test. So we pay not just to get a basic soil test, but to also see the microbiological activity, and that has increased over the last couple of seasons as well, with the presence of organic matter. After 2 years, it's hard to tell, has this type of bird been here in the years past? I don't know, but we put up bird houses. We planted quite a bit of perennial flowers, so we like to think that we're bringing in and sustaining more pollinators as well. And economically, I think, broadly speaking, there are more and more customers who are interested in how and where their food is grown. I think it just opens up a bigger market. It tends to correlate with higher cost of production and higher asking price for your food, but I think the demand is there. So that's been great for us as well.
That's great to hear. We always see that in the market research, but it's great to hear that a farmer is actually experiencing that on the ground. And so my question then, again for you, Patty, is how has, and I'll phrase it this way for you, the organic transition process benefited your farm so far?
I feel like the organic certification means something to the public. I feel like it does. I announced to our CSA members that we're going to try for our organic certification. And, you know, this is a conversation that we have openly with our members. I actually share our soil tests with the 130 people that come to the farm, and our farm is so small, like for the pickup, people actually like walk through the middle of the fields to get to where we are to pick up our vegetables. So I feel like people feel safe, and they know that, you know, that you have the soil's health in mind and their health in mind. And like all of your customers, our restaurant accounts and also the CSA members, you know, they like from when we started, because at like less than 1% organic matter and just all the problems that that kind of soil presents, like working it as we have, you know, people can taste the difference and people can see the difference. I think every year the farm gets more and more lush, and it, as Ryan said, like the biodiversity and like that landscape that you create when you utilize these practices, you can really see and feel the difference. And I feel like everybody that comes to the farm too, they see and feel it and appreciate it too. So that's how it's helped. And also Ryan also mentioned like price, like you can charge a premium price for goods, produce, and fruits and everything grown in this matter. And I think that, you know, people can taste it, and they come back for more after they try it. So I feel that that's how it's helped me from the very beginning, to be transparent about what we're doing and to kind of like take people along with us for the ride as we try to get better at what we do, you know.
Thank you, Patty. I love that you share your soil tests with your CSA members. That level of transparency, it's hard to put a price on that, and that, you know, that level of engagement, education among your customer base is really fantastic. And I have to agree, you can taste the difference. So my next question is, and again, posing it to Ryan, what role has the NOFA-New York community played in your journey to become certified organic or maintain your organic certification? And so I'm just going to qualify that by saying, you know, NOFA-New York definitely puts an emphasis on farmer-to-farmer mentorship and on-farm education and fostering a community of support for organic farmers. And so I guess kind of what I'm wondering is, has that helped you, and have you picked up any tips or tricks along the way from your neighbors?
Yeah, I think being in touch with other organic farmers, and especially the staff of NOFA-New York, is just having a reference. It's not like a scary certifier you need to appeal to, but they're really there for support, and to work together to gain certification. And anytime I've had questions about, in particular, seeds or materials or mushroom spawn or chicken breeds or feed or labeling, anything like that, it's pretty easy to get an answer, get some help, guidance on how to handle those things. And also, I guess, sort of, we have been growing into more fields, certified organic fields, as we grow our production. And there's, for us on the island, there's the organic transition program, and gaining help getting field certified, and even in some cases financial assistance, paying to have those fields certified organic is, you know, thanks to you, Whitney, has been really wonderful.
Thank you, Ryan. And how about you, Patty? Have you made any friends in the organic community through the program, and did you have any tips or tricks?
Yes, I mean, as I said earlier, you've become my friend, and Deborah Aller, who's what's her professional title? I call her a soil scientist.
I believe, generally speaking, she is a soil scientist for our cooperative extension out on Long Island.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great point. We've done a lot around soil health and compost and cover cropping and organic soil amendments over the past year with the Organic Transition Program, because Long Island has pretty unique soil types, and they are also an island, and so buying a lot of these amendments off island often comes with high costs of transportation factored in, and so building a robust community and connecting people with sources of high quality compost that's produced locally or manure, et cetera, has been very important so far.
Yes. And also you invited me to do this cash test this year. So through NOFA, we did a complete analysis of soil health, and Deborah came to the farm and did permeability tests and organic matter percentages, all these things. It was so wonderful. And NOFA sponsored a soil health field day at the farm. And like 25, well, I don't know how many people showed up. It felt like maybe 20 people.
I think it was more than that. Yeah, I cannot take full credit for this. Actually, Debbie works for Cornell Cooperative Extension, and she performed the soil test. But we did put on the field day, and I did introduce you to Debbie. So I think maybe the benefit that we can take away from that is like the networking and the connections, and making sure everyone knows what's available to them and who to talk to.
Yes, I mean, NOFA is amazing in that, and you just feel, you feel like supported, and you can have people that you can call and ask questions to, and they get right back to you, and they want you to succeed, NOFA. So, that's how it's helped me majorly, and I'm very, very grateful that I started this relationship with NOFA. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the final question I have for you then is there any advice you can share with farmers who are still weighing the decision whether or not to become certified, or who are like beginning that journey toward transitioning to organic certification?
I guess in hindsight, I would have definitely gone onto the NOFA New York website, and you can download all of the materials, the necessary, depending on your farm. See, I have them pulled up here. Is like, for instance, I have a whole folder here called Update Application, and it has everything from livestock forms to material lists and what's called the Organic System Plan, which is kind of the bulk of what it means to become certified organic. And don't let it be a daunting thing to see, because it should be a helpful guide to see what it means to become certified organic. And it was mentioned earlier that as you have made that transition to being organic certified, it sustains an easier recertification process, and it's super helpful. Like, there are definitely aspects of this, like livestock feed sheets here that help me keep track, like economically, like what money we're spending on food, and how our layers are progressing, and how many eggs they're producing. I wouldn't necessarily have kept track, I don't believe, of how many dozen eggs we have. So it actually is super helpful in that sense.
That's great to hear. And how about you, Patty? Any advice for farmers who are just starting out with their organic certification?
I would just say, like, to be patient, because it takes time to build healthy soil. But it's like you get a good yield, but it gets better and better. And so I think you know, when you start to transition to organic practices, you know, you're not going to get results overnight. And, but the process is just so, it's like very satisfying. And, but, you know, don't give up is what I guess I would say to people. Because as the soil improves, like everything gets better, everything gets easier. You know, weed pressure gets better, pest pressure gets better, disease pressure gets better, productivity improves, and then it really starts to pay off. So I think, like, in the beginning, just to have faith and be patient is what I would say to people.
Those are great messages. And so now I would like to open up the discussion to any questions from the audience. Feel free to raise your hand if you would like to unmute with questions, or you can drop your questions in the chat. And while I give everyone a few minutes to come up with questions, I am also going to share a link in the chat to an evaluation, which we hope that you will fill out to help us improve our conferences in the future. And I would also like to share the website of both Jamesport Farmstead and Early Girl Farm in case anyone would like more information about these two great operations to visit. Patty, can you remind me what your web address is? Is it earlygirlfarm.com?
Yes, it is earlygirlfarm.com.
Well, Whitney's working on the logistics of Zoom chat. I'll just put a plug in for the work she's doing down there. I've been in NOFA for too many years, and back before the NOP, why we would come to your farm and sit down, fill out the application with you, show you what you needed to do. It was we used to call it enabling you to be certified. And then when the NOP came out, it was like, you know, you're going to be an enforcer. I spent 18 years as an inspector, and I wanted you to be the enforcer, you know. And when you're there going over your records and walking the farm, it's more, you know, this is what you're doing. This is what I need to fill in the blanks. Not so much to fill in the blanks like it's a check off, but this is going to enable you to be successful in the years to come. And listening to both of you, I just remember, you know, back over 20 years ago when we would be out on these farms, and you know, people would come and they'd have a dream. You know, they'd have a bad experience in their food system or on their farm. They were conventional farms, whatever it might have been, and they wanted to be organic, and you could go out and encourage them, you know. And when we started this program with Whitney, it was just kind of like a deja vu to me to say, you know, that's what it ought to be, you know, instead of QAI and CCOF and these big international programs just putting a stamp on everything. Put the people first. Put the name, put a face to the name, put a face to the food, and we'll all be better off for it, you know. And here we are 20 years later, and we're still, you know, challenged by labeling issues. We're just still challenged by organic integrity, you know, and that's where we lost it, you know. So it's just great to hear you guys talk, and keep up the good work. I'm up here in the Finger Lakes. We got lots of snow. We don't have to worry about winter being too short. Don't have the privilege of being down there. I inspected hundreds of farms, and it was always a privilege to go to a farm and share with your dream, your crops, your failures, your losses, whatever it might be. But as a farmer myself, I always felt I could at least lend a shoulder to cry on, if nothing else, when things were bad, you know. And it was, you know, between feast and famine and floods over the years, I pretty much saw everybody's challenges, and quite often I was going through it myself, and it's just great to hear you talk. I appreciate your time tonight, and Whitney's encouragement down there to keep you thinking forward, thinking for a future. Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. For those of you who haven't met him, Robert is on our education team, and he has decades of farming experience. So he's just one more person that we reach out to when we have questions about organic crop farming. And he also is a wonderful historian of the New York organization. He's been with it for decades as well. And I love it when Robert tells me about how the winter conference used to be a bunch of people camping out around a bonfire. And here we are meeting over Zoom. And so it's great to bring it full circle. Thank you, Robert. So I must have asked all the good questions because we didn't have any come in through the chat. And I don't see any hands raised. So on that note, I think we can close the seminar unless Patty or Ryan have anything else to add.
I think Phil Barbados had something to say. Our past president, we better give him a moment. Now, maybe he's gone already. There he is.
I didn't know you'd notice me there, Robert. I'm so proud to be part of NOFA. I can't tell you. I can't express it in words. And my father always used to tell. I grew up on a conventional farm down here on Long Island, and the farmers back then, they wouldn't tell anybody what they had for breakfast, not let alone what they did out in the field. And one thing that impressed me, I mean, I've been with NOFA for 22 years, but one thing that impressed me very, very early on was how we communicate with each other and help each other. Whatever the problem might be, if I know it, you can have it. That's the basic understanding here. And I want to apologize to Ryan and Patty that I haven't been to your place yet. Well, I've been to yours once, Ryan, but Patty, I've got to get out there and see you, and I certainly invite you to come to my place in Jamesport on Manor Lane anytime that is
I would
convenient.
love to. Thank you.
I feel bad that I haven't gotten out there and visited your place, but I'll make the time to do it.
What's the name of your farm, Phil?
It's a biophilia.
Oh, okay.
It's a book by E.O. Wilson. I invite you to read it. That's where I got it from. It means the love that humans have for all the other forms of life. So I thought that was a good name for an environmental farm. My background is environmental engineering too, so it fits.
Phil, the crew and I will be visiting this year. I look forward to it. And I didn't know did I hear you were a past president of NOFA?
Yeah, they ran out of guys to fill the job, so I was there at the right time, I guess. Ryan, I was so impressed when I visited.
We didn't vote him out either. We didn't vote him out. He resigned respectfully.
But anyone who hasn't been to Ryan's farm, I invite you to go there. It's just the most beautiful farm I've seen. There wasn't a weed on the place, and all the vegetables looked so clean and pure and well kept. It was a beautiful spot. I very much enjoyed that visit.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, you have something to be proud of there.
Well, thank you, Phil. And thank you both to Ryan and Patty for your great presentations and for sharing your experiences with the NOFA New York community. And I look forward to working with you in the Long Island Transition Program in the future.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Whitney, for all you do. You're doing a great job. Whitney. Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you, NOFA New York.
All right, we'll see you at the next seminar, everyone. See you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your
Good
conference.
night. Bye-bye.